The idea of going to the New World was a blessing for some. It was a chance for a new life, opportunity, and prosperity. But for Africans being brought there as slaves, the New World wasn't as promising. From the 1600s through the 1800s, African people endured what's called the Middle Passage, or the Triangular Trade. European explorers exchanged common goods such as cloths, firearms, and gunpowder for African people. But there's more to this story. We were brought on crammed ships packed with more than condensed air, sweat, and disease. There was misery, fear, and shed tears. We were separated from our mothers, fathers, and children. We had no clue when we would ever see daylight again. The ride was brutal. Some made it and others did not, and there was little hope of turning back. We were now on a blind journey, and all we could do is hope and pray. Hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm here with Teresa, Kyle, and Kepler, and we're going to take you on a journey today on what it means to be a 21st century African American.
When you think of slavery, you think of like just absolute sadness and a position where they didn't have power. So being that today we can have power as African Americans is incredible.
The first group of about 20 Africans were brought to an English colony in Jamestown, Virginia in the year 1619. When they first arrived, they served more as indentured servants, joining almost 1,000 European indentured servants already in that colony. Indentured servants weren't slaves per se. They were more so laborers who were bound to their owners for a certain period of time, typically about 7 years. And after the 7-year period was up, who would actually stay as an indentured servant? Many of them started their own lives in the New World. Some went back to Europe, where the economy was thriving during this period of time. So the question became, who would still maintain the estate? Who would still care to the land? And the answer to that question became slaves.
Sarah Gudger, Slave Narratives, Volume 11, North Carolina. I sure has had a hard life. Just work, work and work. I never know nothing but work.
Lynching served as a punishment or as a way of threatening blacks. Lynching became spectacles with groups gathering to take photos around the body. Postcards were very popular with lynch scenes. Church services ended early so that people would have enough time to get out to watch the lynching. School children were let out early from their schools to watch lynchings. Many blacks moved out of the South for better opportunity in the North, West, or wherever they could go.
Trouble in my mind. Trouble don't kill me. I'm trying to die. Don't get trouble in my mind. Don't get trouble in my mind. Don't get trouble in my mind. Don't get trouble. Last time.
For blacks who stayed in the South, although slavery had ended, Jim Crow laws and the idea of separate but equal became another hurdle.
In the 50s, I was working, late 50s, I was working at a country club, Bayou de Country Club. And the rules were that if you were black, you were not supposed to look at a white woman. You were supposed to turn your head and wait on her with your hands stuck out, and she would receive. The young man felt like I didn't do that. He thought I looked at her. And he was going to take care of the situation by drowning me in the pool.
Many moved north to be a part of the Harlem Renaissance, a cultural movement exploding with artistic flair.
Rolling in a drowsy, syncopated tune, rocking back and forth to a mellow croon, I heard a Negro play.
But in the 1960s, we were ready to take matters into our own hands. We marched, we fought back, we organized, we created our own protection, our own music and culture. As a collective, we moved America forward, and this era in Black history is known as the Civil Rights Movement.
Powerful, amazing, I would say empowering.
Revolutionary, motivational, and brave.
I think it's very important to know your history because the events in the past are going to help you become a better person than you are today. Without knowing about the Civil Rights Movement, without knowing how brave and how people of your own race and your culture was able to strive for change, if we didn't know that, we wouldn't strive for change ourselves. But they were able to unite and stand together and fight for change.
You had a point in time where we had that Black Power movement, and people were, going back to being more natural and having afros and different kind of natural hairstyles. From the past, who would I like to meet from the past?
Rosa Parks, that was the whole bus movement. That was even before the March on Washington, when Rosa Parks started it and saying that, she has just right as anybody else to sit on the bus. Of course, Martin Luther King. Everybody knows Martin Luther King for powerful speeches. I have a dream speech.
Today's 21st century Black youth, we have incorporated certain ideals, characteristics from the past, such as from the Civil Rights Movement, having revolutionary mindsets, wanting to escape this sort of societal prison that many of us have just now realized that we're in. We, especially with recent events that have come up, such as Michael Brown, Ferguson, Eric Garner, people are now realizing that, hey, something's up. Some people are racist. Racism still exists in this society, despite people who we might see on television, such as celebrities who might look like us, who might have our same skin complexion, political figures who might look like us, who might sound like us, but racism is still alive and well. And I believe this youth, today's 21st century African American, does realize that and wants to fight back. We have that same mentality of the Civil Rights Movement, that something has to be done now, that we have that strong will, that drive to really set our mark. And that's what I believe we have taken from the past.
Because in schools, they teach about white history for the most part. During, Black History Month, they'll, teach something about Black people, but overall, most of what they teach in schools is not about, their past. And when they do teach about Black history, it's mostly all the time about slaves. It's not about, the Africans that lived in Egypt or in Ghana or elsewhere that did well for themselves.
We're very focused on ourselves and building our own brand. I think that we're trying to build ourselves now and not just say, we're working for these same people. We're trying to create our own businesses, our own companies, so that we are seen as a powerful entity as well.
Albums, in today's society, nobody really buys albums. Whenever I buy an album, especially from an African-American artist, rapper, singer, or whatever, I just feel like a little kid in a candy store. I portray myself by being a hardworking, young African-American man. I attend school, but I always aspire for more. I try my best to grasp any opportunities I have.
As a person of color in America, I always make sure I carry myself in a very professional manner because I know how some people might interpret African Americans the wrong way based on their perceptions in the media and very negative connotations that they've received over the years about how African Americans are and what to watch out for when being around an African American.
As a person of color in America or a person of African descent, I portray myself as an individual that is still having to deal with some of the struggles and issues that my ancestors had to deal with.
And so as an African American person of color, I'm just trying to show that I am just as good as anybody else. I want to be the best, and I want to be able to develop myself and be able to feel like I'm safe in this world and know that I can provide for my family.
My knowledge and my research on Black history has impacted who I am today very much. I wouldn't have gotten this far in life if I, hadn't researched about different people that fought for Black people. I think W.E. Du Bois said it best in his book, The Souls of Black Folks, when he spoke about the double consciousness of Black people and how we're just kind of fighting ourselves to figure out how we can fit in while not, totally destroying who we were, but trying to, establish a place in where we could all just deal with what we've been positioned into.
I say it's more of us getting into our roots and basically accepting who we are. For I was one actually had natural hair my whole life, so you want to say that, oh, it's okay to have your hair curly, and it actually not only fools it's just Black women now. You'll see other people who embraces their curly hair as well.
We treasure our history and we have a longing for finding out where we come from, embracing what was once lost, and to really reconnect with our roots and our legacies.